Hello, everyone. Today we are going to look at aspects. So it's not going to be too philosophical. It's going to be very practical. And there are certain aspects which will bring you success. When I encountered this whole idea, it was in the early 90s in the United States. There's a certain society. I don't know whether they are still alive. They were very successful and quite famous in the 90s. At least for a decade, I think. And they published maybe 2 or 3 books, also an ephemeris. It was a very interesting idea. They use declinations, for instance, and they believe that symmetrical planetary structures were very powerful. So I learned a lot from them. And it was as I said, it was in the early 90s when they published one of their books claiming that successful people had a certain set of aspects, and so you can actually model them and you can actually use them to your benefit. And even if you don't have them in your natal chart, maybe when it occurs in a transit, you can utilize it. So that was the idea behind it. And I was very excited when I learned about this theory and about the list of aspects. The list I'm going to present you is not exactly their list. And I also made some sort of changes according to what the aspects mean. And this has all become possible because I've been working with these aspects for the last 20 odd years. Actually, oh my God, almost 30 years. It's scary to realize it. But anyhow, so we're going to look at these aspects. According to the original idea, there are 5 such types of aspects. We can only consider them if they are within orb, and only these 5 will bring you unlimited success, so to speak. Conjunctions, trines, bidirectional quincunxes, and these are in the longitude, and then parallels and contraparallels. And what is a bidirectional quincunx? You might wonder. Well, when you have 2 planets, one is direct, the other one is retrograde, that's a bidirectional aspect. And according to the original theory, bidirectional aspects are the ones that bring you the success and not the monodirectional. So if both planets are retrograde or direct, then it's not bringing you any success. Neither do sextiles and any other aspects. I modified this a little bit. I accepted the original idea. I also agree that bidirectional quincunxes are the ones that are really powerful. And the reason for that is very simple from a karmic point of view, because any retrograde planet brings you inward. It affects you inwardly. So you look at it in a retrospect or in a reflective way, whereas direct planets take you out there. So there's a pull, a constant pull between the 2 planets going in 2 directions. And the quincunx is a very disruptive energy pattern anyway, because it sometimes works as a trine and sometimes works as a square or an opposition. So it's not stable. And the pull and push of the 2 bidirectional planets adds to this, and you simply are willing to work with the quincunx. And that is, according to my assessment, that is what makes it exceptionally successful. According to the original theory, a 3-degree orb brings you the unlimited success. I would say I would probably make this much tighter. I would probably only use a 2 to 2.5 degree. If you really want to be successful, these have to be very tight aspects. I would say that within 1 degree in the longitude, that's unquestionably a success energy. It's okay until 2 to 2.5 degrees, especially when the sun is in there. But above that, I don't know, I would question the validity and the effectiveness of these aspects. And as for the declinational aspects, the original theory gives you a 1.5 degree. Then in a later book, they lowered it to 1.2, so 1 degree and 20 minutes of an arc. But I again would say that especially with the contraparallel, it's only 1 degree. Okay, so if it's within 1 degree, yes, you can go ahead. So what are these planetary combinations? I'm going to also add, every time we look at the aspect, you will see the table, and I will add the karmic reason for the success behind it. So what are the reasons? Why is it bringing you success? So here's the table I prepared. I hope I didn't make any mistakes in it. We will see. And the first one is Sun Jupiter. So again, what are the aspects? Conjunction, trine, bidirectional quincunx. These all have about 2.5 degree orb, maybe 3. The original theory goes until 3 degrees. And parallel or contraparallel, 1.2 degrees, I would say 1 degree only. So this brings you personal good fortune and all kinds of fields of interest, whatever you want to touch. So this is the personal luck aspects. And of course, it brings you enthusiasm, and it brings you faith in your own stuff, and the general feeling that whatever I can touch, it will succeed. So that's one of the best aspects you can have in your natal chart. And again, if you have it in conjunction, trine, bidirectional quincunx, parallel or contraparallel. With the parallel and contraparallel, you won't see it in the natal chart wheel. You need to look at the declinations, and that's how you can actually decide whether you have it or not. The next one is Sun Uranus, and this is a charisma aspect. It usually brings you fame. And the reason behind it is because Uranus is associated with the media. So in modern days, there are 2 types of crowds, so to speak. There's the people as such, the powerless people, that's the moon. And there's Uranus, the people with a power that is actually powered by the media. So that's how Uranus is linked to it. But of course, Uranus sun aspects are the inventor, or someone who is famous for his ideas. Don't forget that Uranus is a higher octave of Mercury, and it can also bring you fame and success coming from the masses, coming from the people. Sun Neptune. Now, Neptune is an interesting planet because it is the first planet that you won't be able to live through all its cycles, because it has a 165-year orbit. So it's really 2 generations. And the original idea behind Sun Neptune as a success aspect was that it lengthens everything. It gives you the length of time, and it is linked to all sorts of success that is triggered by generational stuff, and also it simply lengthens your life force. From a karmic point of view, Neptune is the planet of enlightenment and illumination and all sorts of esoteric stuff. And Sun Neptune gives you the ability of clairvoyance, to look at it, to look and understand behind the scenes, to see things that are non-3-dimensional, that are of higher dimensions, that are non-ordinary, but they are of a different quality. So that is the reason behind the Sun Neptune as a success energy. Okay, so there's talents are linked to it, long-term success because it's 2 generations, and long-lasting life force as well because it lengthens your life force. Sun Pluto is one of the magician aspects. According to this theory, the other magician aspect is a Saturn Pluto, the 2 death planets. Saturn Pluto is not a success aspect in any case. Sun Pluto is very, very powerful. It gives you personal power. It gives you the idea that you can transcend everything. You can transform everything. So you are the great transformer. If you have it as a success aspect, nothing is impossible. So it gives you very strong creative talents and the ability to overcome any obstacles. It's very intense and very effective. So those are the sun aspects, and there's one sun aspect still, actually two. There's a Chiron sun, which I labeled here with Chiron, and there's the Venus sun aspect, which is not a full range success energy, because you can only, out of the three, you can't have a trine, a sun Venus trine in your chart. You can't have a bidirectional quincunx. So there's only the conjunction, the parallel, and the contraparallel possible, and it gives you personal charm. So that's the least important of the success aspects. So here come the Venus aspects. Venus, Jupiter, of course, the two lucky planets are combined, and this brings you extraordinary good luck. It also can bring you abundance of money and harmony creating faculties. And it usually gives you lucky relationships, lucky partnerships as well. It's a nice aspect. It's a very nice personal aspect. Venus, Uranus. And Venus-Uranus in karmic astrology is usually a dilemma between how to relate to someone and how to break free of it. So it's an interesting dilemma. Judy Hall called it the freedom and commitment issue. Of course, if it's a trine, this is something that you can reconcile. You are able to reconcile, and that's the key behind the success it brings, because you can actually renew yourself. You can have lucky breaks. You can understand the changes of time or the necessity of change, and that's what brings you the necessary energy. And of course, since Uranus again is the power from the masters or the media, it's usually Venus-Uranus. It gives you fame and all kinds of lucky breaks in the businesses ruled by Uranus. So we need media, entertainment, politics, computer science, and so on, even astrology. So this is success in achieving fame. That's the Venus-Uranus. Venus-Neptune. Again, if you look at it first from a karmic viewpoint, Neptune is higher dimensional love. It's universal love, and Venus is carnal love. So these are the two aspects of love combined here. It is also one of these so-called romantic aspects. You may remember the video on success, which was tackling the idea of sacrifice and taking risks. And Venus-Neptune is one of these sacrifice aspects, simply because you can be so good, you're so romantic, you're so willing to go with the flow of romanticism, that you are able to sacrifice without actually feeling it's a sacrifice. And here, as an aspect of success, it gives you from money or resources that originate from long-term sources, land or real estate or inheritance. And it also can bring you long-lasting beauty and charm and growing wealth. So it means that it is becoming bigger and bigger, your wealth, your harmony creating faculties. And a person who is harmonious, who is okay in his life, is much more successful than one who is constantly struggling and unhappy. So that's Venus-Neptune. Venus-Pluto, this is what Judy Hall originally called the emotional black hole. And the reason why, because if you have a Venus-Pluto aspect, you feel that there can be never enough love. Now, interestingly enough, no matter how much you get love, it goes down into your black hole, it's constantly swallowed, and you are deprived. And this goes with money as well. No matter how much money you are making, this black hole is sucking it in, and it disappears. It doesn't disappear because, of course, what happens to you, those who have Venus-Pluto will probably laugh now, because it makes you work more and amass more. And then what you do with this, the moment you have this, let's say you have $1,000, you're buying a CD, or you're putting it into some sort of investment. And of course, then you don't have that money. And then you are deprived and you are trying to make more money. So that's how Venus Pluto as the money black hole works. But actually it can make you very successful because you're craving for more and you have this stamina and drive to make more. So that's the karmic energy behind it. And of course, Venus Pluto is similar to the Jupiter Pluto super conjunction or super success aspect. That's the definitive Jolly Joker in any of these aspects, but it's to a lesser degree. And money through power, or power gained through money, or money gained through powers, those are ideas are also linked to the Venus Pluto aspects. Again, don't forget, if you have a sextile, it's a success combination, but not a success aspect. Only conjunctions, trines, bidirectional quincunxes, parallels and contraparallels are considered to be that. Okay, so the next one is Jupiter-Uranus, which is interesting because it is a conjunction that occurs every 12 years. The trine and the bidirectional quincunx, of course, come also approximately every 12 to but every 12 years. But then there are two of them, so actually every 6 years you have either of them. So it's not a rare aspect. It's quite common, to say this to the least. And of course, it brings you success through achieving either fame or in those professions ruled by Uranus. But it's also a risk-taking aspect. It simply gives you the leap of faith in new stuff or in renewing stuff or crazy ideas. So that is why it is a success aspect. It's also called the super fame aspect. So if you have this, you can be super famous, and that invariably brings you success as well. Jupiter Neptune is long-term good fortune and success. I usually call it the inheritance aspect, simply because this is what you inherit from your father, grandfather, and so on. It's also a faith in your dreams. So it is a very powerful thing, because when you can project dreams out there, Neptune, and you believe in them, Jupiter, and the two of them combined, they help you to become very successful. So that's a nice one to have. And so it's always long term, okay? It's also could be linked to patents and copyrights and mineral rights and all sorts of stuff. Jupiter Pluto is the super success aspect. That's the big one. So it's always bringing you success no matter what. The reason behind is simple, because Jupiter brings you big stuff, and it enlarges everything it touches, and it also brings you faith and enthusiasm, and nothing is ever enough for Pluto. So the two are combined to make you actually very successful. Whatever you touch, it is going to be successful. And so that's a good one. That's a really good one. It's also long lasting and also overwhelming, the effect that it's producing. And then there is Chiron Venus, which is one of the Cinderella aspects. The other one is Chiron Neptune, and I actually put Chiron Neptune into the video on sacrifice, because Chiron Neptune helps you with the sacrificial stuff, and it brings you the idea and the will to make sacrifices, and actually takes the edge out of the negative aspect of sacrifice. Chiron Venus is linked to personal charm. So you simply are able to charm your way through life, and everyone starts to love you, and you're a smiler, you are a nice person, and it also brings you money by creating either harmony, or, for instance, it's also linked to art. Chiron Sun is the personal healer. There's a universal healer aspect. It's the Chiron Pluto aspects, which are rarer. Those are the universal healers. The generation that has Chiron Pluto comes to the earth plane in order to heal whatever there is to be healed. Chiron Sun is more the personal healer. I come in, I have shamanic traits and abilities, or as we say in Hungarian, the táltos. It's very different from the shaman in many ways, but I'm not going to go into it. It's similar because it's a medicine man, but different in many spiritual aspects. But anyhow, so that's the shaman or the táltos energy, where if you have Chiron Sun, you are able to heal yourself. So that's the karmic issue around it. But it's also success in understanding karmic wounds and turning into healing processes of others. So actually you're turning your karmic wounds into traits and abilities. Then there's the Jupiter Chiron Jupiter aspect, which is actually the second best, the second most important aspect. And this is the ability to turn karmic wounds into gold. So that is brilliant, because whenever you have this, it makes you able to understand your karmic wounds and not licking your wounds any longer, but bring them forth and turning them into traits and talents and abilities and capacities that are enabling you to be a lot more successful than the rest of the people. And then there's Chiron Pluto, as I said, that's the universal healer energy. And this is very important. The generation that comes in, the Chiron Pluto, is able to heal the world in all levels. So that's very, very powerful. So these are the success aspects in general. That's what I found in my last 25 years when I was working with success aspects. And what I also realized is that, first of all, if you don't have them in those 5 aspects, conjunction, trine, bidirectional, quincunx, parallel or contraparallel, but you do have a sextile or a quintile or anything else, it's not there by itself. So the success doesn't come by itself. You have to work with it. You have to make it work, so to speak. So that's one thing. So if you have the combination, but you don't have the specific aspect, even then you can turn it into success, but on the long run only, and when you make an effort. And what's more important, maybe, that if you have, let's say, 4 or 5 success aspects, by the way, you need to have 2 in order, that's again the original theory, you need to have 2 in order to become successful. And if you have 4 or 5, then you are super successful, of course. And you will see people who have 4 or 5, but they are still not very successful. And then you need to look at the whole chart. And that if you see that this person has a lot of fixed squares, or has a couple of strong Saturn aspects to his personal planet or the chart ruler, then this is what prevents him from becoming successful, because these difficult aspects simply offset the good ones, the success ones, or successful ones. So you need to again look at the whole chart and assess everything. But if you have more than 2 success aspects, I wish you good luck, because then you can really turn your life much easier into a success story than the rest of the people who don't have these aspects. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.